We start this hour on the eastern front of Europe, and Russia has attacked Kyiv and other regions in Ukraine with missiles and drones ahead of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's meeting with US President Donald Trump scheduled for December the 28th. A live map has shown that more than 70 air raid alerts and threats of artillery shelling across Ukraine as of today's morning. Explosions sounded in Kyiv as Ukraine's air defense units went into action. And the military said on the telegram that messaging that missiles are being deployed. The Air Force said Russian drones were also targeting the capital and regions in the northeast and the south. Meanwhile, people in Kyiv have taken shelter in metro stations as explosions were heard in the city. Joining us now is Professor Rohan Gunaratne, an international affairs expert, joining us live from Singapore. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Gunaratne. Of course, this comes as President Zelensky gets ready to meet with the US President on Sunday. However, aerial attacks on the ground and continue to occur, with Russia currently pounding Ukraine. Is Russia deliberately trying to escalate this situation on the ground, and so the political atmosphere has been altered before Zelensky meets Trump? And also, what do you think the US president is going to think of these attacks? Of course, we have no statistics when it comes to casualties, if there are any even. But what are your thoughts on how this might alter things come Sunday?
Thomas, as you said, there is an escalation just before Trump and Zelensky meet on US soil to end the Russian war, how they can make peace between Ukraine and Russia. And this escalation by the Russians is to demonstrate that they have power and they are capable of striking and hurting Ukraine. So it's a very sharp escalation. They have used systematically weapons to make Ukraine feel that they can never win against Russia. President Trump himself is going to give various guarantees to Ukraine. He is also going to get other European nations to work with Ukraine. But what is important here is to focus on the summit, to focus on that meeting, so that there can be peace restored between Ukraine and Russia. The Russian-Ukrainian dispute is a larger dispute Russia is having with the West, especially with Europe, because the European countries build certain capabilities on the European side of the Russian border. We all have to understand that, and we all have to work towards resolving this dispute, because otherwise this war will continue.
Yes, and Professor Gunaratne, of course, this comes as Donald Trump and, well, US officials and Russian officials initially met and came out with a 27-point plan, which was seen as widely favoring Moscow. Now Ukrainian and US officials have met in Miami, and they say a peace framework is 90% done to present to Vladimir Putin. However, of course, with violence continuing on the ground, do you think this makes a serious peace framework harder, or do you think it increases urgency, particularly in the eyes of US President Donald Trump?
I believe that the Russian escalation is to demonstrate, Moscow to demonstrate the Russian power, that it is able to sustain the war, it is able even to escalate. But currently there is a lot of investment President Trump and his team has made to resolve this dispute. Trump met with President Putin in Alaska, and he is planning to have another meeting with Putin. So I think that the 27-point plan will definitely work, because It is done in consultation with the Russians. Of course, the Russians are interested in territorial gains and also sending a very clear message that NATO build-up along the Russian borders is a red line.
Indeed. Professor Gunaratne, do stay with us as we have further stories to discuss. We move on now, but we have a related development. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has strengthened ties